Hi, I'm Zoe Stern.
And I'm Evan Stern. 10 years ago, we decided to create the first book for kids, by kids, about dealing with divorce.
10 years later, we've looked back and decided to create a new version to show how our experiences shaped our past. We'd like to take this opportunity to show you some of the original media that was done when we first came out with the book. We'll start with Carol Evans, Rebecca Jarvis.
A brother and sister wrote this book, aimed at helping kids cope when their parents split up.
Lots of times when parents get divorced, the kids get stuck in the middle. The kid might end up being a messenger between the parents. This is wrong. It should stop. This is a parent problem, and this shouldn't be a kid problem. It makes kids feel used.
Evan's quick tips. Ask why. You may or may not get a good answer, but it's worth a try. Go ahead and feel sorry for yourself for a while. Eventually, you'll get sick of it and go on with your life. Give yourself lots of time to understand what has happened.
Who came up with the idea for the book?
Well, my mom came up with the idea with one of her book people and then presented it to my sister and I.
Why did you choose to do the book?
We wanted to help other kids through our experiences. We wanted to make it easier for kids that were having hard divorces, and we wanted to just mainly take our experiences and reach out to the community and help other people.
Looking back at the divorce, what would you change about what you did and how you dealt with it?
I think the only thing that I would change about the way my sister and I dealt with the divorce was that we would have probably talked about it more in the beginning and really tried as hard as we could to get all of our feelings out.
How do you feel about that? The whole community who reads your book is going to know about how you feel.
Well, it was sort of a hard issue. We had to think about that, and we had to talk about it a lot with both of my parents, and just sort of feel how much of ourselves can we expose and still be okay and still be healthy.
Well, it's interesting. I think it kind of feels like you're really exposed, but it's good to know that other people can hear your story.
I am so proud of you guys. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this with you, was that at the time, 10 years ago, there was so much press saying that kids of divorce suffered terrible trauma, had problems developing good relationships, had trouble with self-esteem.
There still is.
There is, but I look at the two of you, I don't think self-esteem is an issue. I really wanted to combat that and challenge that, because not only as your mom and looking at you, but with families that I work with and with kids of divorce who I knew, I could see what strong life coping skills you had. I mean, to get through something like this and come out the other side, you guys are real survivors and really triumphed.
This is a Nick News special edition. Divorce, caught in the middle. Now from New York, here is Linda Ellerby.
There's a lot to understand about divorce, which is why Zoe and Evan Stern took their own experience and wrote a book for kids called Divorce is Not the End of the World. They're here today, along with Brenda Wade, a family counselor and the divorced mother of 2 girls. Also joining us are other kids who've been there. How are some of the ways that your parents helped you get through their divorce?
Well, first off, I mean, there was the traditional, I'll buy you something or I'll do something for you to try and make you happy, and it's not so bad, but it runs off, and that won't eventually bring long-term happiness. The real healer, I guess, is crying and letting your feelings out and talking with your family, and it really helps, especially if you have a sibling, a brother or sister to talk to, and somebody or friends who have gone through divorce that are in the same burden. And that's what I was wondering. Now, you're a divorced mother, but when you were a child, did your parents ever get divorced, or what was the situation when you were a child?
That's a good question, Evan. My parents were not divorced. They lived together until my father died.
Yeah.
And so when I grew up, got married, had kids, and our marriage didn't work out, I think that I felt as though I were a great failure to my children. And I think I tried to hide a lot, and now I'm hearing from you all that I didn't handle it well, and I now know that I didn't, but I didn't know as much back then.
But parents think that it'll hurt the kids and that they'll be scarred for life and they'll have to go to therapy and all, but it's really not so bad, and eventually it does heal.
The way we came up with the book in the first place was based around issues.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't organize it in any way other than the issues that we found to be most relevant to us and to other people we knew. And so there are 20 chapters, But revisiting them, we were able to look at them and say, in the past 10 years, how have our experience impacted that?
I think I found that one of the main emotional issues for kids was the feeling of maybe this is my fault, maybe there's something that I could have done, maybe they're fighting about me. And I know that, so when you did, you guys took turns writing 10 years later pieces, giving perspective, and actually that was one of my favorites that you wrote, looking back 10 years later on It's Not Your Fault.
Whew, what an important topic. I want to say the name of the chapter again. It's not your fault. Got that? Say it out loud now. It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
Still think it might be your fault? It wasn't. It's not, and it never will be. I promise. There is nothing that I could have done or that you could do to change your parents' feelings. From having had my own relationships that didn't work out, I now know from experience that people usually break up because something about their relationship isn't working, not because of other people. If you start to think that you may have had a part in your parents getting divorced, just remember that you are a wonderful kid and they love you more than anything. And then repeat after me again and say, it's not my fault. We wanted to make sure that we were speaking to people who were still in the pain. And that was hard because we had to reach back.
But that message is part of it too, that in time, it's just going to be this blip.
Right.
You know, it's a small part of life. I mean, it's a huge part when it happens, but it's hard to show perspective and try and give kids perspective that 23 and 25 years gives you. And that, I think, is a challenge, is writing for kids and their parents in a way that's going to be understandable and accessible and meaningful for them, but we'll try and get across this kind of mature message. But that's the hope, I think.
Anything that happens in someone's life, whether it's a divorce or a death or something that's hard, it enhances their abilities.
I like both of my parents' new partners, and I like both places I live, so everything's turned out fine. If you come into this situation with the made-up mind that it's going to be awful and you're not going to learn anything, then you won't. It's a given that it's going to be hard,
but that doesn't make it bad. This is the sort of thing you have to find out for yourself. Divorce is not the end of the world.
It wasn't then, and it's not now.
Zoe and Evan's Coping Guide for Kids.